Hi, my name's Andrew, and I'd like to take a moment of your time to introduce you to the new feature set in Cubase Pro 8. Now, our developers have been working hard behind the scenes to bring an innovative new product to the market that makes it more powerful for you to create and compose music at home. One of the, the most important new features inside of Cubase is actually probably one of the most simple features for the everyday user, but it's also the biggest request that we get from our user base, and that is to have access to your creative tools as quickly as possible. In order to achieve this, we set our developers some pretty high benchmarks, and we believe they've achieved this. Large projects will load faster and save faster, and under low latency conditions, we can run more tracks, more VST instruments, more VST plugins, which means we can have larger projects that are going to run smoothly with the resources that we have at our fingertips. So we have a really big feature coming up now that is one of the biggest feature requests by a lot of professional users and even home users. It's all about trying to get the perfect mix. This is VCA faders. So let's go and have a quick look and see what we can do with VCA faders. So over here on the screen, we've got quite a large project, and there's, say, 12, 13, 14 drum tracks. So to be able to control those drum tracks, we'd want to send them to a group. But in the past in Cubase, when we sent them to a group and moved the volume of the group, we're moving everything in exactly the same manner. But if we're recording a drum track and come the mix time, we really want to have everything moving in relation to each other. And now we've got the VCA channel. So as I move this up and down, all of the drums are going to move in relation to each other. That means that your hi-hat is never going to go louder in relation to the actual snare drum. And the same for the whole entire kit. So it's giving us a much tighter, organic mix, which really helps you in the end because it's all about getting the perfect mix. We've also recognized that you don't always have automation data at every point in the song. So maybe you haven't just decided on it yet and you want to come back and look at it later. So on the left-hand side here, there's automation data, then there's a gap, and then there's also automation data at the right-hand side. This Virgin Territories function now means that I can hit play, and as I go through, I can just select the fader, and I can preview the mix, or where I can see that instrument fitting into the mix. And once I've decided, I can let go, and the automation data takes over again. Cubase has always been somewhat of a production playground. We've led the way in terms of MIDI, VST instruments. In fact, we created the whole VST environment. And we've always offered lots of flexibility in terms of bouncing individual tracks out. But now we've taken it a step further. So if we have a look at the screen, we've got this MIDI piano part, which is linked through a VST instrument. Now, if I want to turn that into audio so I can actually start working sonically with the part, I very quickly just go up to Edit and then down to Render in Place. Or I can click on Render Setup, which is quite interesting because it allows us to bounce the part dry, so as it is, or with the channel settings, so with maybe compression over the actual channel. The complete signal path, so it's the piano as it moves through the Cubase mixer, or we can actually bounce it with the complete signal path and the master effects we have over the top. So this is really enhancing the workflow, meaning that we can get stuff out and get it into the audio domain very quickly. All we need to now do is just hit OK, and you can see instantly Cubase starts rendering this piano part and it will turn it very quickly into an audio file. The other option I have selected is the option to mute the source. So that now means that the MIDI file is muted, and if we go just below, you can see now we've got the perfect audio file of what we had played in the MIDI track. So you will have noticed today, as we're working through the new features in Cubase Pro 8, that I'm sitting in front of this amazing controller. Now this is the Nuage controller, and Cubase Pro 8 fully supports the functionality of this controller, so anything we do in here will be reflected in our workflow inside of Cubase Pro 8. The general theme of, this video is to show you how much time we've spent in increasing or enhancing the workflow inside of Cubase. Of course, there's so much functionality, and we really strive to make this functionality as clean and as accessible as possible. So over on the right-hand side, you'll notice this new dockable window. We can get easy access to our instrument racks, or at a click of a button, we can go across to our media bay to, say, drag a sample straight over into our file. Or if you go over to your left-hand side, you can see we've completely cleaned up the track listing to make it as easy as possible to get around the project window. So as well as dockable windows, we've got something pretty exciting for our PC friends, and this is Windows handling. So you'll notice here, I just click on a window, it appears. That's quite standard for, most setups, but you'll now notice it on the PC. I can drag it over to the next window, and I can click on it, and I can resize it, I can close it, and I can open it up in exactly the same spot and the same size. Seems like a simple addition, but our PC friends will know this has been impossible on Windows for years, and we've achieved it in Cubase Pro 8. A lot of the features we've gone through today, are based around the whole production process. But let's stop and then just go back to the very start of the creative process. And this is composition, which is exactly what Cubase was originally intended for. A big feature in Cubase 7 was the chord track. And a lot of people have come up and actually said, this is fantastic. So we've looked at that and we've thought, what else can we do with it? So if we have a look down the bottom here, you see the new chord pad section. So this allows us to quickly click on chords that we want to access. Not all of us are piano players, so we can find the relevant chords just by scrolling through different inversions and then right mouse click. And now we can start to build on our chord track, take our project in a new direction. So there's nothing more exciting than getting a new product, taking it home, installing it on your machine, and just seeing how it shapes the sound that you have already recorded. Now we've given our developers, I guess, free license to come up with some new, creative and innovative tools to help shape the sound that you've recorded. The first three are the new multiband compressor, envelope shaper, and also expander. I guess a long-awaited, it's not an addition, it's a re-addition to the Cubase range is the Quadrafuzz 2. We've now got an acoustic agent inside of Groove Agent SE, and then a new VST bass amp. So we're joined in the studio today by Torben, who's been kind enough to come in and play some bass on this track that we have up here. So let's have a look. And over on the left-hand side here, I've got the new VST bass amp. I'm just going to record the track and cycle through it, and if you would be so kind as to play underneath it, and then we'll scroll through some of these emulations. So it's as easy as actually just clicking on the metal section, and we can move through emulations. So let's move from a valve amp through. And I think I like this because it's got a nice high mid and it's actually poking through the mix. We've recorded this track now, and at any point in time, once Torben's gone and left the studio and taken his bass gear with him, we can actually just load it straight back up, the VST bass amp, and go through and change the preset to find a sound that suits the track for the actual finished product. Thanks for taking the time to stop by and check out the new features and functionality in Cubase Pro 8. I mean, we've really only had time just to scratch the surface, but there's so much